Welcome to our series, Dyin,
Cryin,
and Lyin on Two Luckies,
the podcast. This is a series where we rewatch Little House on the Prairie, a show that we loved when we were kids, and we give our perspective on it as adults.
As adults, and I must say, watching it as an adult has been very different.
It's been extremely different, and we found out that their plots tend to have three main categories. They are either dying,
They're crying,
or they are lying. And we figured out that they have 2 out of the 3 categories every episode. So if you want to know what it's like to sit in the car with us and have us tell you a story with categories, you're about to find out. So buckle up. Here we go. For Two Luckies, the podcast presents Dyin,
Cryin,
and Lyin. Season 2, episode 17, Troublemaker.
Did you ever have those days in school where kids would just kind of antsy and just kind of start a ruckus where they need to throw things or, agitate somebody else, and then it turns into a kind of a big blowout?
Yeah, it's like it builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it just needs to go pow, just to vent off. Yeah.
Well, that's how they're starting this episode out. We've got a ruckus going on in the classroom, and poor Miss Beadle just really seems like she has her hands full. But I guess they're dealing with things that we didn't have to deal with. Like, we didn't have kids that were out of school because it was crop season.
Right, they were growing crops at home for the farming, and then they would only be able to come to school during the off time from farming.
Yeah, whether you have that or whether you don't, it seems like that we still have the same issues that were going on. It's like kids get antsy and they start poking and prodding. And of course, when one of the kids that does all the poking and prodding goes and runs and tells his mother that there's a disciplinary problem, he's neglecting to say that he's a big reason for it. But unfortunately, when she walks into the room just as this is going on, and circumstances always get turned around. Now we got Laura standing up going, "I'm sorry, I threw an eraser." Yeah, but you didn't see what happened all the times that led up to that moment.
Well, and we're talking about Willie is a much younger child in the classroom, and he is instigating with these much older. I mean, one of these boys looks like he's like 20.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have this classroom that is all together. They have first grade? Because I don't think kindergarten existed back then. Kindergarten was like a new thing when we were kids.
First grade to 12th or whatever it was.
First grade to 12th grade, all in the same room together, all learning from one teacher.
But you know what? With Willie doing that, and I'm sure Nellie too, telling all this stuff to Mrs. Olson about what's going on, they are perpetuating a big
Lyin.
Because
there really isn't a discipline problem. It's just that these kids that are used to being out in the weather and walking around and moving around all day are now made to come to school and sit still. And school, but really school is kind of less stimulating than just being outside in the weather and being able to physically move around. They have to sit still.
So now Miss Beadle has to appear before the school board and explain what's going on, and it's not looking too good for her right now.
No, she looks very upset, and she looks very tired. And Mr. Hanson was really trying to be understanding. He seemed to understand more, but Mrs. Olson likes to make mountains out of molehills.
Just like her kids.
They had that meeting in the schoolhouse for the school board, and boy, was that tense.
Yeah,
I mean, that was
tense.
Really tense. Charles had the Christmas shirt on. We got a shirt report already.
Report. Christmas shirt.
He's got that shirt on. He's rocking that Christmas shirt, and he's got his hands deep in his pocket so that we know he's thinking hard when his hands are all the way down. I mean, he's got his fingers almost down to his knees.
I don't think he said
pockets.
a word the whole scene.
I think he stayed quiet, but kind of Mrs. Olson was very kind of on the attack there about how she can't handle it, and there is an issue of the boys that are coming back, and I guess I thought that they had been back already. There was only 2 of them in the school room, but there was about to be a whole bunch more. They outweigh her by 50 pounds. They're taller than her, and she's the only teacher in the room. She's literally the only adult in the room. And she even says later on that she was kind of dreading them coming back because it really must have made a disruption. And the older kids would then cause a problem with the younger kids, would see the behavior, and then they would start imitating it, and then it would just end up spreading like wildfire.
Yeah, I mean, that was really tense. And then they excuse her, and she asks them, she says, I'm going to be grading papers really late. I want a decision this evening. And again, you got Chaz with his hands in his pockets, but he really didn't say anything. But he was the one they sent over to Miss Beadle's room to let her know that she was just let go.
Well, I think he was sent because it wasn't a unanimous vote. I think he was the dissenting vote, so they said, well, then you go tell her. So he had to go over there and tell her this news that they decided to go with a male teacher because they felt that a male teacher would be able to provide the discipline more. I guess they felt that the room needed discipline, and she was unable to provide it, even though they thought she was a good educator.
But the writers did come through, because the first person of all who delivered a category was Chaz, and he did a
Cryin
as he was sobbing away that he had to be the one to let Miss Beadle go.
I know, and we're over here laughing about it, but this is a fictional story and this is a fictional TV show based on a
And it was followed up with Miss Beadle.
Cryin. So they knew it.
So.
They knew it was Dyin, Cryin, and Lyin. They had to give us the categories, and thankfully they did right away. But now Miss Beadle is faced with having a new teacher coming in, and she's been asked to stay until the replacement comes, and she asked them to stay quiet about it to the children, because it really would make it a much harder deal for her to deal with the children if they knew this was only temporary until somebody else came in. But I feel bad for her. She really is. She cares about the kids. Her character cares about the kids. I mean, she really does seem like she enjoys teaching, and it's unfortunate that she's in this situation.
I have a feeling this isn't going to go as well as they think it will.
Well, we've seen this one before, so we actually know how this goes, but let's see how it plays out. Well, that was just short hop to a cat being out of the bag, because Nellie is swinging with Willie pushing her while they're talking to Laura and Mary out in the schoolyard at recess. And those two boys that had started throwing books and making a whole ruckus in the earlier part of the show were over there. And of course, Nellie, when she has a tasty tidbit of information,
she's got to be a blabbermouth.
Well, she decided to tell everybody, I heard my parents talking about it, and we're getting a male teacher, and Miss Beadle isn't going to be our teacher anymore. And now Laura really does feel responsible for this, because she did end up Willie had thrown something at her, and she ended up throwing it back, and it started the whole larger boys fighting.
Yeah, but how many times did she get hit in the head with spitballs from Willie? And the whole reason she had the eraser was because Willie threw it at her first.
He waited until Miss Beadle had turned her back, hit it in his seat, and then waited until he had the opportunity and threw it at the back of her head. He did hit her in the head with spitballs, and she had held onto the eraser and threw it back. But now she's feeling very responsible, and poor Miss Beadle, she's out there helping some child read out of recess, with their reading whatever, sitting on a log, and she has to break up a fight between the kids out on the playground now, because Nellie and Mary, of all people, Mary, was threatening to slap Nellie's face, and Nellie was saying, I was going to pull your hair out of by the roots. I mean, they were really about to go into a big fight, and Mary pushed Willie, which I was really surprised, because Willie likes to do that little, he has this little voice to him, and she started doing that, not me, not you, and she pushed him, and she started getting ready to have a fight with Nellie. And if anybody was going to have a fight, it's usually Laura. So this is a little unusual that Mary was getting ready to tussle.
But the writers brought us a trifecta for categories.
They did.
First it was Miss Beadle. She was Cryin, and that made Laura Cryin, which ultimately made Mary Cryin.
So
Trifecta.
They went for it, and Laura's over there blaming herself, because throwing that eraser back, she felt that she should have just taken the abuse that she was getting from Willie, I guess, and not do anything back. And now she's over here hugging Miss Beadle, crying because
the Olsons are real thorns in the side. That's all I can say about it.
I wouldn't say it's Nell's. It's that Mrs.
3
Olsen,
out of 4 of them.
Mrs. Olsen, Mrs. Olsen and both of their children really do start a lot of the issues in the show, but without them, what would the show be?
We wouldn't have any categories.
You wouldn't. If you didn't have them always having some kind of a different point of view and causing some kind of a wrinkle and stuff, a lot of these categories we wouldn't be talking about this stuff.
And just a side note, did you see that Willie is kind of developing into what looks like a season 1 Chaz shirt?
He's got this almost like a uniform now that he's wearing. I mean, he's got the same pants on, the same suspenders, and the same kind of shirt, but the fabric of the shirt is different than Pa's season 1 shirt.
Yeah, it is a little different,
It's
but
more
it reminds
colorful.
me of the season 1 Chaz shirt.
It does. He's almost like a little shrinky season 1 Chaz in a different like color scheme.
You know, one thing I'm noticing about this show as it's going on is that Mary is definitely turning into a mini-ma.
She's very much about keeping the rules and making sure they stay with the rules that they were given by their parents. Yes, very
And
much.
she also tends to kind of mirror Ma's mean streak that she has in her, too. We see the way that she wanted to get into it with Nellie earlier. But you got Mary and Laura who are lying in bed and they're wondering about how the new teacher's going to be. And I think Laura pretty much hit it on the head. He's going to be big and mean because that's what they want.
It's like she had a premonition almost, yeah.
But then Mary introduces this. She says there's a new kid coming in, Herman, that just moved to one of the local farms and how he's a really big kid. And it just makes me think, oh boy, here comes more trouble. But, you know, the next day comes and the kids are all outside. They're waiting for the stage to come by to say goodbye to Miss Beadle. And here's this little troll-looking man walking through wearing
he is
a
very
suit.
stern and severe.
Looked like he sucked on sour grapes.
Well, what I wanted to say when they were getting ready to go to bed, what I thought was funny was Laura was like, well, that new Herman kid, if he starts any trouble, I'll kick him. She was already ready. She had a plan. She already, like, if she was going to get picked on by an older kid, she already had a plan of how she was going to deal with it. And I thought that was kind of funny that she had already, thought about all of these logistics. But they did get to say goodbye to Miss Beadle. Miss Beadle left town.
Yeah,
she
she
left
was
town
on the stage. And they've already kind of set the mood because this guy's up there ringing the bell and Laura tries to say good morning to him and he's just standing there with that sourpuss on.
Well, when I was a kid, I started calling people like that suck-a-lemon. They looked like they had just sucked on a lemon perpetually, like all day long. They looked like they were sucking on a lemon with that pinched, like look on their face. And I used to think, and I might have been right, that every school might have secretly had a requirement that they had to have so many suck-a-lemon like employees per students because there always seemed to be at least one that just looked like they wanted to do they were just angry all the time and just always looking to be disciplinarian, and they were always looking for an infraction, and they were always looking for a problem instead of just like smiling. But I don't know why that happens, but that's what I call them, suck-a-lemons.
Seems to me the writers are gearing us up for some categories.
They may actually be. This teacher's walking around in his black suit with a severe look on his face, and he is laying down the rules. These rules are so strenuous that even having a mark where it looked like you erased on your paper and handed it in with an erasure on it was a failing grade. I mean, correcting a mistake was a failure. You would have had to. Most of these kids can't afford the paper and the pencils to rewrite all of their work.
It made me think, watching that, as he's standing there and listing off all these rules like they just got to boot camp or something.
I mean, he was really severe.
What would have happened to him if every one of those kids is, because there's like 20 students maybe total?
And that new
what
kid
if
Herman
they all
is in
just
there?
got up and walked out and didn't come back? This guy wouldn't have a job to come back to.
But I don't think they thought about that. Mary and Laura looked very afraid. And what ends up, this guy's name is Mr. Applewood. Mm-hmm. And one of the older kids, the ones that caused the ruckus in the whole first place, that Miss Beadle got fired because of it, because she did get fired because of it.
Yes, she did.
He writes a note They pass it forward. He passes it forward to Willie, who passes it forward
to
Nellie, who puts it on Laura's desk. So now Laura's sitting there, the recipient of a note, which that was one of his rules. There will be no whispering. There will be no, what were the rules? There were no whispering.
No whispering, no
passing notes in class.
Passing notes, note taking, things of that nature.
And even having if you didn't put your name and your grade on your paper was a failing grade.
In the upper right-hand corner.
In the upper right-hand corner. So like if you put it in the left-hand corner, he would have rejected it and called it a failing grade. Like he is very, very strict. And one of the things he said while she received the note was that they were supposed to be writing down all the rules that he just laid down. But now she's sitting there, she gets a note, and of course, because it's quiet in the room, he catches it, this eagle-eyed teacher, he catches her receiving a note. And instead of punishing whoever wrote the note, he brings her up, reads the note. She didn't even get a chance to read it yet. Reads the note and now makes her put her hand out and slaps her really hard with the ruler. 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
and then tells her, since you like to write, she didn't write anything. Since you like to write, you're going to be doing a lot of it. So but I have a feeling that the Olsons already predisposed him, or Mrs. Olson predisposed him towards disliking the English children.
Oh, without a doubt.
So, I mean, she already was on shaky ground, and he considered her tardy, which if he considered her tardy, why didn't he say something earlier? He said that he smacked her hand because for being tardy and for passing notes. Meanwhile, she didn't pass any notes. She was the recipient of a note, and she wasn't tardy. She was just the last one to walk into the building. Yeah. So, like, I don't know. I don't like him. I don't like him at all.
The funny thing about the note is they called him a crab apple.
Yes. The messed up thing is the kids who ended up getting Miss Beadle fired, one of those kids was the one that wrote a note saying this Miss Beadle was so much of a better teacher than this crab apple. And now she's standing up there with this note and she looks like she wanted the ground to like swallow. I've had this kind of feeling in school. I remember getting into this kind of trouble and being like, what's going to happen now?
Yeah, but they're going to be bringing it to us.
Well, after a while, I just stopped caring that they were mad at me. But that was their problem after a while instead of mine.
Well, things are looking up because we're at the Ingalls residence, and first we got Chaz in the season 1 shirt, and we have a Carrie report.
We got a Carrie report. She's standing on a stool helping Ma do the dishes while Laura and Mary are doing their homework at the table with Pa.
And Laura's trying to explain to Pa all the troubles that she's having, and it's funny. Here's Ma right away. Oh, I think teachers are always helpful, and you just need to be able to help them out.
Teachers are always fair.
And you got Pa, yeah, your mother's right. It's like, no, why don't you take the time and listen to your kids as they're trying to tell you there's a problem here. But...
All right, well, here's what's happening. Laura now... This guy said, you're going to write, since you like to write, you're going to write. She has been up at the blackboard having to do all of this writing on the blackboard, and then she wasn't able to study her spelling, and then she had to write all of the spelling words that she got incorrectly in front of everybody, to the point where he dismissed class for the day, except for people who still had work at the board, which was only Laura.
Right. And then, you'd made the comment earlier about the Olsons, and then I said something too. It's like they're like a thorn in the side. Well, they kind of showed the nail being driven into the coffin, because there's Mr. Applewood having dinner with the Olsons, and there's Mrs. Olson right away, telling tales about how Laura Ingalls is a troublemaker, and Nels just ain't having any of that.
Nels actually defended Laura and said that he found her pleasant and intelligent and kind and, well behaved.
Yeah, but like I said, 3 out of the 4. Yep, the 3 out of the 4 are over there egging this guy on and feeding all this misinformation.
Well, I want to call
Meanwhile, they should just be saying, it's not her, it's us. We're the ones. We're the real troublemakers.
Well, I want to call Mrs. Olson on a Lyin, because she said, I don't want to tell tales, or I don't want to carry tales, and that's exactly what you were doing. She was sitting there at that dinner trying to get this teacher to be against Laura, because Laura has a tendency to get into scuffles with Nellie.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think that's a big part of this.
But, now he's, what did he say? Forewarned is forearmed.
So he is ready, and he already has a thing against Laura. I was just wrong with the timeline, I guess. I thought that Mrs. Olsen had already predisposed him, but now she's basically just reinforcing what he's already starting to feel during the day because of that whole note incident.
They're about to bring it to us.
They are. We come back to a scene that reminded me of the saying, with friends like this, who needs enemies? Because Laura is in a whole heap of trouble with this new teacher, and then he has this whole thing that he got from Mrs. Olsen and her kids.
Yeah.
Against her. He already has a bee in his bonnet about her, and he's upset about it. The older kids are actually friends with Mary and Laura, and they came up with this whole idea of how they're going to get back at this teacher, and they think it's going to help Laura. And she says, "Look, if you're my friend, just don't do anything, please."
Yeah, I don't need your help with this.
Please,
you're just going to make more trouble for me.
She said, "I'm in enough trouble." Well, Herman, who was the
tall
larger
kid
boy
that just
who
moved in.
Just moved in. He lives on a farm. He comes into school an hour late. This teacher was like brimming with anger. I mean, he was like almost boiling over with like pissiness. Mm-hmm. He has him come up front, and he's going to do that ruler, I'm going to smack you on the hand thing. And the first time he pulls his hand out of the way, and the teacher smacked himself. Everybody laughed. And I'm surprised he let that fly, because he did let that fly. Then he finally gets a couple of whacks on Herman's hand.
He's just laughing at him.
And he laughed. He was like, I learned that you can't even hit hard enough to tickle. Meanwhile, this guy thought it was going to teach him, how not to be late. But Herman makes a good point.
Yeah.
For him and his family, knowing the price of corn, how to plant, how to take care of animals, the reason he was late is because one of their cows was giving birth, attending to their animals, that's their whole livelihood.
That's their livelihood right
that
there.
is literally their whole life. And back then, education was less of a point for a lot of people. Like it was either something you didn't have access to at all.
Right.
But there were things that you needed to know how to live, and he was more concerned about that than a history exam that taught him about a whole bunch of people that lived it a long time ago that he was never really ever going to deal with.
Yeah, and then the funny thing is this kid's walking back to his seat. Laura turns around just watching him walk back there, and then he gets her into trouble, and what she ended up doing, writing all over the board again.
Well, the reason she got into trouble from him walking by is because he needed to put that anger somewhere, and he had it in his favorite whipping post now, Laura. Mm-hmm. So he has picked her, because he couldn't get the result that he wanted to get with Herman, he's now taking it out on Laura. I've actually seen this happen, like in real life. Yeah. I've seen this happen in real life where somebody becomes the place for all the anger gets put on that one kid when they can't get the results that they want someplace else. But now Laura is writing and using up all their chalk, which I think is a colossal waste of resources in a poor community. This community does not have funds like this. But this guy is he bent on having his way. Boy, Laura's having a hard time in this episode.
Boy, is she ever.
She really is. She's been writing on that blackboard. She hardly got any lunch. She came in early so that she could study her spelling. She came in early from recess, from lunch, so she could study her spelling. And then because she was the only person in the classroom, when the teacher finds out that they had done that prank by sticking his hand into his bag and coming up with a whole papers full of ink all over the place,
she gets expelled.
He goes and looks for her, and she gets expelled. And she's like, oh my gosh, like you could see it on her face. She didn't do it. But they were doing this supposedly to get back at this guy for her, but no one stood up and said they did it. No one actually came to her defense. And now here she is walking out the back of the room, grabbing her stuff. Even Mary didn't look in her direction. She just walked out the back of the schoolroom, and now she has to go home and tell her parents she's been expelled.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
She really
is a tough one.
She is getting the business in this one.
Hey, and we did find out that the original troublemaker, his name is Ven.
Yes, that's his name. But we didn't know that before. But he really does seem to be friendly with their family and the other, and the children. But this prank that they did now just ruined her whole educational career in like one fell swoop.
Laura sauntering home, and she gets into the barn where we see Pa, and he's still got the season 1
He is
shirt
rocking
on.
that indestructible season 1 shirt.
But he asks her, because of course it's the middle of the day and she's home, what's the matter? And she comes running in and she is crying as she's telling him
bad.
he expelled me because he says I poured ink all over his papers and I didn't do it. And there's Pa being very supportive. Oh, don't worry, everything's going to be okay, and I love you.
He
And
gave her a hug, and he sent her
as-
inside.
As soon as she walked out of that barn, all of a sudden you see his face turn to stone, and he was not happy.
No, and really, I mean, he's seeing his child is being targeted by this new teacher. I think he understands what's going on, the logistics of it, and the whole Mrs. Olsen factor here. I really do. But he was like, attaboy, Chaz. He was actually really good.
Way to go, Chaz.
Yeah, he hugged her and he was supportive, and now he's got to try to figure out something to do here. But yeah, Charles brings Laura and Mary to school in the morning because he's going to talk to this teacher, and they run into Miss Beadle. So it was only a temporary trip. Yeah. She's back in town. They welcome her, and she asks the girls, "How is school going?" There was a large pause, and then Laura says, "It's all right," which we know is a Lyin. Thank you, Laura. We needed a little Lyin because you've been crying a lot in this episode. It's making me sad. At least get back to the lying. We know everybody's going to stay alive. But after they go talk to Miss Beadle gets invited to dinner, so Ma's going to get voluntold again to cook for somebody else. Charles, after he had been warned by Ma last night, don't lose your temper. You've been known to lose your temper. He very calmly explains that there's 2 doors to the schoolroom. And there's a very large chance that somebody else came in the back door because this guy was only standing in where he could see 1 door.
Right.
He saw Laura come in. Just because she was the only one in there, there was a possibility that somebody else had come in the back. And I am going to call on Mr. Applewood a Lyin, because just by the look on his face, he was lying. He had a nice face because he's talking to a school board member. And all of a sudden, he's got smiles for Charles when all he's got is sour suck a lemon for everyone else. And he stands there and says, well, I guess without total proof, now Laura can not only come back to school, but she's allowed to ring the bell for everybody to come back in. And this Applewood is walking Charles out the door, acting like everything is okay.
They are gearing up for something big.
They are. Well, they come back from recess, and what's Willie doing? He's up at it's almost like a stage, like it's lifted up where the teacher sits, and he's up there and he's throwing all the papers around, and he takes the satchel and throws it on the floor. And now, of course, Laura had to be one of the first kids in there. Laura and Herman were the first 2 that walked through the door. Right.
They walk through the door. Laura sees him. She's trying to tell him he's coming, then just sits down and covers her face. And when he comes in there and sees what happened, he blows his stack. Right away, what's he do? He blames Herman, tells him to get up there and get his punishment, except Herman tells him no.
Herman was like, no, not me.
Doing it.
And, good for him, because this guy wants total, complete obedience. You have no evidence as to who did this stuff. You know somebody did it, but you don't know who it is.
Of course, Laura doesn't know when to keep her mouth shut either, because when this guy tries to walk up to Herman, she has to yell out, he didn't do it.
Right.
Which right away, okay, tell me who did it. And she didn't say a word. So you know who did it, and you're not saying it's you. Hold out your hand. And just as he's about to hit her, there's Chaz.
Well, thank
comes
goodness.
in the back door.
Oh, he was mad. He was bristling.
Wait a minute.
He said well, and the funny thing is, this new teacher said, well, we're having a little, problem? We're having a little something.
Caught me in an awkward time here, and I'm having a little problem. He's like, I heard your little problem all the way down the street.
Yeah, he was one of the girls forgot their homework, and he was bringing the homework to them. And he heard this guy yelling down the street, came in, started to talk he sent the girls home. They didn't even take their stuff. They just left their seats. He said, Laura and Mary, go home. They left their seats and all of their stuff at their seats, at their desk. They didn't take a thing. They just went straight home, like he said. And as Charles was just walking out, he wasn't going to say anything really, I think, else to this guy. The teacher went after him and started yelling, I have absolute control, and when I'm talking to you, you'll listen to me. And I actually remember this happening when we had kids in school, and the teachers and the administration would try to tell me like I was a student. I'd be like, yeah, I know you're not doing that.
Charles again tried to walk away from the guy, and the guy made the mistake of putting his hands on him. And as soon as he did that, Chaz turned around, picked him up, and marched him right into the corner of the wall.
He slammed him right into it.
And it says, you got to thank my wife. She told me to be kind to you. And then he snatched that stick out of his hand he likes to whack people with, and just broke it over his knee and threw it.
Yay! So yay, Chaz! Chaz for the win. He came in and he saved the day, at least for this little bit of a moment. But after school, he is going to be bringing the school board with him because this is not working.
Oh, no.
Well, that school board meeting was tense.
That was fiery.
And what's interesting about it is he was trying to say all this stuff about Laura, and Pa was trying to say, explain to me why my daughter is failing. Right. And he had a folder from Miss Beadle talking about her previous progress reports and some of her test papers. He was able to look over what the work she had done to see for himself what she had. This guy didn't want any part of it. He didn't want to look at it. He didn't want to know anything about it. And he made the comment that Miss Beadle wrote it and she wants to resecure her position. She'll write anything she wants. So when Charles brings out his handwritten resume in his own writing, this guy starts sweating. He starts pacing back and forth. He's clutching he had some kind of a handkerchief or something like that. He's squeezing it in his fist, and he's talking about how you need discipline and order, and everything has to be done a certain way, and I must have order.
He had a total meltdown.
He's banging on the desk. He looks at Nels, who's sitting there like incredulous at up at the front where the teacher normally sits, and he's telling him, you told me that I could do whatever I wanted to do and that I was going to have complete control. I mean, they all sat there looking like they all were looking at this guy completely melting down. He walks to the back of the room, grabs his hat and says, my resignation will be tendered tomorrow. Like, they didn't even have to say anything that he knew this was not going forward.
All that because he said, I think we need to check your references from your previous employers. Which means that they hired him on face value and didn't check a thing about him.
Can you imagine? So this guy was in charge of 20-ish kids.
Yeah.
I mean, these are children. They did absolutely, and I get it. Things were a lot hard. They couldn't just pick up a phone or get a fax or get anything easy, quick back then. But they didn't. They hired this guy just from the look of his resume that he wrote himself without checking anything in the background. And now he had a complete meltdown, and they got to see what his version of discipline and order looked like, and it was ugly.
And of course, all this started because Mrs. Olson had to run her big mouth.
Well, Mrs. Olson had to have an agenda, and she likes to push her agenda. But without the Olsons pushing this kind of agenda, we wouldn't have a lot of the elements on this show. So, we do have to thank
And we didn't bring up in the last clip either when he said, you caught me in the middle of a minor problem. That Mr. Crabapple, he was a lion.
Because it was a big deal. It was a big deal. Charles shows up with his hat in his hand. He had to convince Miss Beadle, please come back. And she was like, I love these kids. They're my children. I love them. And I want to come back more than anything. But I don't know if I can. Without the support of the parents was the problem. And I think now that they realize this, they had mentioned it in the beginning. Now that they realize this, I guess the school board's going to try to do something to get the parents more involved. I don't really know where they're going with that. But they convinced her to come back, and Herman is over there in class the next day trying to cause some trouble.
Back to their old tricks again, except this time as he's dropping the book on the floor, the whole class, including Willie and Nellie, turn around and just giving him the death stare.
They gave him a look like, oh, I mean, really, would you want to have her have to leave again and end up with this crab apple
Another
guy?
Crab apple?
I mean, I know his name was Applewood, but my gosh, was he crabby. He was just awful.
And I will say, Chaz was wearing a new shirt.
He was wearing a shirt we have not seen before. This had no lines or pattern on it at all, and I'm wondering if it was the one that when Laura had to take over the duties of whatever, when Mary went to that.
Oh, yes, I know what
Mary
you're talking
went to the
about. Mary went
competition
to
when she-
Minneapolis,
for
and
the big
Laura
exam.
was putting together a shirt.
Ma was
Maybe it
making him a
was.
shirt, and it was just a plain, like, cream-colored shirt. I'm wondering if that is that shirt. So do we actually have another shirt in play?
Another shirt.
Hey, the
Adding
shirt
to the
report
repertoire.
continues.
But hey, they were able to bring us some
Lyin.
and this time they brought a whole heaping bunch of
Cryin.
But they didn't get any dying in on this one except for Mr. Applewood's future.
His career was on the rocks. So that was the end of this episode.
And make sure to join us for the next episode, which is called The Long Road Home.
I wish I knew these titles sometimes I don't know the title, but I actually have seen the show. But
Yeah, it's
we'll
hard.
find out. The Long Road Home.
And that concludes this episode on Dyin
Cryin.
and Lyin on Two Luckies.
Two Luckies,
The podcast.
We release these weekly, and there's a whole bunch of them out already, so go
whole
check them
bunch.
out.
We'll see you the next time.
We're out.
Two Luckies, the podcast.
Two Luckies, the podcast. Two Luckies, the podcast. Woohoo!
You made it to the
stayed.
end.
Yay! So, a little fun fact, and you may be wondering if you're even listening, why do we leave the breath sounds in our podcast? It's because we're human beings and we breathe.
We are not machines. We are not AI. We are not any of that. We are 100% genuine people.
We are. And if you were in a room with us while we were telling you a story, you would hear us breathing. So I know that some people have a thing against it, but that's why we do it. And now you know.
Thanks for staying with us.
We appreciate you.